Video, I'm going to walk you through the steps of setting up a grid um, for the plans. So right now I'm in L1 architectural, and this is where I'm going to start building this grid. So I'm going to go to the architecture ribbon, and I'm going to click on grid, and here I will create the first grid line. Now we're going to shift them around, so it doesn't really matter where they are on the sheet, except, it may be best to kind of keep this first one over to the far left. So click on the screen and click a second time, and you should see that column line 1 has been created. We're going to have 12 of these running across with a spacing of 20 feet. So I'm going to click on one of them, and I could use the copy tool, which is this one right here. It'll be faster, since there's so many of them, to create them using the array tool. You should see that there is a bar of information underneath the ribbon, and here is where I'm going to start adding some information. I'm going to put in 12 here, and now what I'll do is click somewhere on the screen and then shift over towards the right and input 20 feet. So what will happen is we will see a set of column lines that go all the way over from column line 1 to column line 12. And I'll do something similar horizontally. I'm going to go to the architecture ribbon, click on grid, and I will create a grid line from right to left. You can see that it's been given the number 13, which I'll end up changing in just a moment. But first, what I'm going to do is click on that grid line, use the copy tool, and make one copy 20 feet below. You can see it is kind of on, overlapping with that elevation target, and then I'll do another one 20 feet. I've got 3, and what I need to do now is change the designation. So typically in a set of architectural drawings, you're going to have like numbers running in one direction and letters in another direction. Sometimes it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, blah, blah, blah. But since there's so many in the left to right, I'm going to instead make my letters for the grids that are running horizontally. This one's going to be A. This one here, let's see if I can select it, B. And this one here is going to be C. Okay. And also what I want to do is shift the grid around a little bit. You can see I'm really close to being centered within this particular scope box, which is what we're seeing with this rectangle. And I'm just going to click and hold down the shift key, or actually the control key. You can see they're turning blue, 1, 2, 3. So I've selected all 3 of those, and I'm going to use the move tool, and I'm going to click on the intersection here and move it up to that position. Okay, we'll work on this graphic right here in a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing running left to right, except what I want to do is, instead of having a grid line centered on this center line right here, I want to make column lines 6 and 7 equidistant from there. So this will take a couple of steps. I am going to make a window around this group here. I'm going to use the move tool, and I will go to this intersection and snap now to that one. And while they're still selected, I'm going to use the move tool again, and this time I will say 10 feet. Because remember, the grid spacing is 20 feet, so if I want this to be centered precisely, that's how I need to locate it. Okay, now this is something that you'll want to do, because when we try to bring this into the sheet that this is going to go to, or that the plan is going to go, there's going to be a roof plan and there's going to be a section and elevation, is that sheet A101. that you've worked on previously. Let's see here, let's find that in the list here. I'm just going to minimize these a little bit. So there is roof plan section, south elevation. So you can see that there are these other sheets, and those had been deleted, and I'm going to go ahead and re-delete them. Perhaps I didn't save my file in the previous step. Okay, so now I just have the A101 sheet, and basically what's going to happen, and you can see this is already, because that L1 architectural was already loaded to this sheet. You can see that the grids are now have been applied to this, but we have a lot of information to get on this sheet, and so we're going to need to condense a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is go back to that L. See, this is under architectural views, L1 architectural. I'm going to click on one of these, and I want to modify it, but it's part of a group. So what I have to do is click on the edit group, click on that column line, and I'm going to bring these in much closer. Okay, we can always, make revisions to this later as we see how the sheet lays out, but basically that's what I want to start with right now. And then when I click on finish, all of them in that group should have been modified. And I can do the same thing with the horizontal ones. These are not grouped because I did them as a copy command, not as an array. When you do the array, it is putting them into a group. I'm just going to bring these a little closer to the column line, but you can see that they automatically, all three of them had this kind of relationship, and so they were all shifted. And I can do the same thing here, bring this in a little bit. So now when I go to sheet A101, now it's a little bit more compact. Don't worry about this right here. We will continue with our arrangement without, we can turn those off. Okay, so that's the first part. That is the establishment of the grid in a plan view. So we have a 12 column line grid, left to right, and vertically we have a 3 set grid line, 20 feet dimension apart, running in the horizontal direction. Okay, next we'll be working on the elevation and section.